from the Funky Town Network. Sponsored by Lee's Book and Tea Shop. Welcome to the Barbershop, where local music people talk about local music stuff. I'm Matthew Burrows, your host. We have an excellent panel of guests here today. Starting on my left with...
I'm Dustin Schneider, bass player, photographer, and podcaster.
That's right, of the Jerry Jonestown Massacre.
That would be correct.
We also have...
Alan Brown, do the booking at Main at Southside, and also have a company called Spoon Productions. It's a concert promotions company.
Yes, indeed. We also have...
Simone Nicole. I'm a singer-songwriter.
And finally on my right...
His name's Simon Flory. I'm a singer and songwriter and a writer and budding auteur of sorts.
The auteur?
We're trying.
That's
a big word.
It's
a big word.
It's quite a plan you have there.
Working on it.
So we've all been around Fort Worth for a long time. I think a lot of us have, and I don't know how many of you knew Kevin Short. He's a fellow that came to a lot of shows, and he had passed, and there was, to the point where he kind of merited an article in the Weekly about it, because he was a big supporter of local music, and I didn't know if any of you guys had contact with him. It was something, somebody that you knew at all, or it's just because I didn't know him well. I
didn't know him well, but again, he was a big supporter, so I saw him out at shows.
Yeah,
and also, once it happened online, seeing how many people had amazing stories and things to say about him. Yeah, definitely a loss. You can tell.
I think sometimes we focus a lot on the performers, but I think it's important to recognize when fans, these especially super fans who are at a lot of shows, it's good to recognize that they're out there doing what because without them we don't have anything to do.
That's true. Extremely true. Yes, we're very thankful for them.
True. So I was going to give a shout out to Kevin Short. One thing that was interesting that I spotted was, so I know we all deal with the ASCAP BMI thing sometimes, with venues. Apparently ASCAP did a thing where they came down on about 19 clubs in the area, one of which was Nickel and Rye in Dallas. And I know we've had stuff, pop up here where, they've kind of just decided to drop the hammer for whatever reason on a place that they didn't feel like was doing the thing. And I'm on both sides of this because I'm a BMI member, but on the other hand, I don't like to be told I can't play a place because they don't want to deal with getting shaken down by BMI or ASCAP or whoever it is. And I don't know if you guys had experiences with that, if that's a thing that, I don't know if I'm the only BMI member or if you guys have.
Well, I'm also
BMI,
yeah.
I'm not a member of ASCAP, so.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so, I get conflicted about it because I do want to get paid if I get played somewhere, but I also recognize that these guys are not out in all of these clubs listening to see if somebody plays one of my songs, which is going to be a rare event anyway. But I don't know.
Everyone's looking at me.
Well, it seemed as if you had something to say.
I only had one experience. I'm still trying to figure out how all of that stuff works, but years ago when I was just starting out, this bar that I was playing at, they got, I don't know if they got fined, but they definitely got a letter saying that they can't have music anymore.
Right.
And I don't know, that really sucked because they had music there all the time and it was like a really cool hangout.
Well, and I had it recently at Martin House because I used to play at Martin House on a fairly regular basis, and then they just kind of stopped doing it because of that reason. And we've played with Shotgun Friday. We've done these beer festivals and things where we've had to sign these waivers stating that we will not play any covers of any kind, and or even if we do play our own songs, which of course are covered by BMI, we have to promise not to play those. We have to just play the ones that aren't. And I say I understand what the performing rights organizations are trying to do, but at the same time, I kind of feel like sometimes it's a little bit overkill.
When did
especially
this go
with small
down?
places. This was last month.
Oh, wow.
Because it's very odd because it seems like everything's been dead for a while and no one's really cared about it.
Yeah.
And to see that they just came down on a whole bunch of people at once, it's like,
I
they
think
just hit North Texas and see what happened? Or
I get the impression that somebody was trying to make some numbers, and they
end
just,
of the year numbers.
Yeah.
quota.
That's my impression. This is probably some dude who just, found himself in a spot and needed to go put the hammer down on some people. But again, I don't know. I wish that there was a more of an incremental system, because it's always the fees tend to kind of range around the $1,000 and above. There's some small, increments.
Yeah, what you would know, right, Alan?
Yeah, it's a gray area to me because I see the value in it for the artist. I think one of the disparities a lot of people talk about it as well. Most of those fees are going to your Taylor Swifts,
right? Yeah,
and your artist that's working their way up a lot of times doesn't see a ton of that.
Yeah.
But for the flip side, you would think, yeah, sure, it's a big deal for a large venue, or a Live Nation chain, but for smaller venues, you're treated pretty similarly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a
like there ought to be a
huge financial
sliding
burden. Yeah.
Because like a place like this, let's say, we're in Leaves Book and Tea Shop. Let's suppose that they wanted to have somebody come in and play some songs, that doesn't need to be $1,000 a year.
Correct.
But even so, the point is, as far as I understand it, the point is, if somebody's making money off of your music, you should get a cut of it, right? But we need to talk about how much money is being made,
right?
Because I think at the end of the day, everybody agrees with that sentiment,
right?
But when
there just needs to be levels,
there has to be, because a 200 cap venue that 90% of the music that is in there is original,
right?
And then maybe 10% is covers, It's just really hard to have to cough. And also, they bully quite a bit.
Yeah, they do.
They're going to try and get the most money out of you, and if you don't care to negotiate, it's kind of like a credit card.
Right, yeah.
You can get that rate down if you really are stubborn about it,
Sure.
I mean,
yeah. That's interesting.
You definitely want to involve some
dropping some credit knowledge on us. That's good, isn't it?
It's always good to have a lawyer friend that you can bring into this, and they cool their jets quite a bit usually.
Yeah. Of course, I think that, like I said, the small places are the ones that, of course, they don't have lawyers and they don't have representation to do that kind of thing.
But playing covers live is such a gray area anyway.
Yeah.
There's so many weird rules and logistics with it that for
them
just to come down with the hammer like that's very, very weird.
Yeah, and I think what it is the industry has been in such a state of flux for the last 20, 30 years that share of their income is dwindling, and so I think they're trying to grab every little bit that they possibly can.
That's the nail on the head right there.
Because a lot of people trying to justify their jobs is what it is.
Well, at the same way, I will say, in terms of grabbing every little tiny bit you can, I take full advantage of my PRO.
Absolutely,
that is in a way that every time I get off stage, I claim that.
Yeah, so you log your set list,
and then I get paid quarterly for that.
Right.
And at this point, if it's 200 plus shows a year, that's not a little,
can be good.
That's an extra gig every quarter.
But are you conscious? Are you conscious of like I am of where I'm playing? Because if I know that it's a place that probably hasn't paid their fee, I won't log that one because I'm chasing them down.
Yeah, but I mean,
if it's a place if it's a place like Twilight or whatever, I know they probably
for sure. Well, you type in Twilight and it pops right up.
You know,
I have put them in before when they didn't pop up, and I put it down as a new venue.
Yeah.
And
and that's I did that. I did that one time. And then I heard that they had shaken him down, and I thought, I wonder if I'm the reason. And so I felt bad about it. It kind of makes you I mean, I know I probably wasn't the only one logging them, but it still just made me feel kind of guilty.
Yeah.
Because then I lost a gig, then I couldn't play that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that would
it's
be pretty devastating.
See, that's how I thought about it. Is I didn't log it because most of the venues I played at weren't listed, and so I was either they don't know about the whole industry side of that,
right?
Or I could get paid extra, but I could also lose all of these regular gigs that I get. So I don't know where to go.
It's usually a restaurant type deal, those kind of things.
Yeah, because that's
they usually pay better.
I know if I'm at Flying Saucer, those people have money. I don't worry about that. But if I was to play here,
Yeah.
I'm probably not going to put that
Right,
down.
right.
You know, but I think it sucks that we have to worry about that.
You do, I know.
I got to worry about the people coming to break their kneecaps if, you know.
Well, and I think it's dense for a lot of people too. I think a lot of places that want, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but almost every place that opens thinks they need to have live music.
Yeah, sure.
Oh,
You
for
know,
sure.
at least in the beginning.
It's a sexist deal.
And just so many people don't. It's not necessarily easy for them to understand the ins and outs of it all.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
right.
true. Well, they just don't know. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that a lot of people don't know until they get the letter in the mail.
Correct.
You know.
Yeah.
And what do you think the percentage is of bands that actually take care of logging everything? And
It's
keeping
lower.
track?
Yeah, it's
Like
pretty
it
low.
seems like it's dropping off. Look,
Well, 'cause-
10 years ago, people would talk about it all the time. Now it's just kind of like, no, we're going to play a gig. I don't care.
Well, I
whatever.
think-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times it's down to, I mean, you know, speak against my own people here, but musicians don't tend to be the most organized lot. So a lot of times when you go play a couple of gigs, first thing you think of is not, you know, I need to go log my songs. You know, I mean, I do it because I have a little checklist, but then that's like,
Yeah.
that's an OCD thing. Not everybody does that.
Yeah.
You know, now the people who do it, you know, like if you're talking about doing 200 shows a year,
Yeah,
you know, you're
I'd
going to
log
do
them all
that because you're
because-
looking at every possible angle for a buck, you know.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, the goal, since the goal is to have you to be paid when you're not working, right?
yeah, you want the
Mailbox
mailbox money, right?
So since that's the goal, if you could start with your own, and then hopefully, God willing, there's a few songs that will be released by other artists that I've written this
Yes.
year. And like, how do I get paid for those? Well,
You're right.
besides the recording, they have to log in.
Yeah.
What am I gonna do? Call them?
But see, and that's
Be like,
kind of,
hey, did you log that show you played and you played my tune the other day?
and I had this.
I got a baseball bat. I'm coming.
Yeah, right.
Pay you a
Then
visit.
I'm the PR of that guy.
Well, and you don't want to discourage somebody from playing your sharing your
exactly.
music.
Yeah. No, not at all. Like, play it all you want. Just like
Well,
maybe
with
log
certain
it.
exceptions that I'm aware of, but you know,
And then what do you think about like the young bands that are coming up that play mass?
Uh-huh.
How many of them even know about that
Not a ton.
yeah,
at all?
Not,
probably
not,
you know?
not a ton. I mean, especially the young ones. I've had this conversation a lot with a bunch of different people about just the generation of 21-year-olds and how they just view everything
Open.
quite a bit differently
Yeah.
than what I've always viewed it.
I think it's the open source of the open internet, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So if,
I don't think they've known a world
Yeah.
without it. So,
so you wouldn't know that a copyright is a thing. That 20
Yeah.
years ago somebody could have heard your tune and went and recorded it, and then you're just totally
Well, you think
screwed.
about-
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
think-
not a thing anymore because you had it on YouTube, and that means it's officially copyrighted.
Yeah.
If it pops up on the internet, it's
Yeah.
and you know, think about this year. So 2020, 21 years ago was 1999. That's when Napster and MP3.com and stuff like that hit.
thanks for
So-
pointing that out.
yeah, right.
So a kid born at
Get my
that
cane
time,
here.
yeah, I know, right? So a kid born at that time has known no other thing other than, you know, free access, download stuff. You know, look it up on YouTube if you want it, or look
The
it up.
$18.99 Sam Goody CD doesn't.
Well,
It's
and what
not-
they they don't download. Whatever they stream is actually the right title for the right band.
Yeah, right.
Song
Yeah.
instead of Napster.
Those were the good old days.
Yeah, like 5 years.
It's a 50-50 shot. Is this going to be the song or not? You never know.
Yeah, and you had to download it for a long time to find out. You know, LimeWire. or
LimeWire,
whatever.
that
It's
was
just
mine.
like-
Yeah, that's what I used to.
You come home after school and you're like, oh, that Radiohead covered Oasis is halfway done.
But that's the thing, you know. It's like we have those of us of a certain age have a memory of having to pay for that stuff, and then they just don't. And I think maybe I don't think it's even cynicism. I think it's just a realism about it. Like, you know, I'm probably not going to get paid very much
Well,
for this.
copyright protection, I think, is a huge one. It was the scariest thing for me when I started writing and playing in public. It was like somebody approached me about a specific tune, and they're like, "You better get covered." I was like, "Whoa, what does that mean? Like, what is this? ASCAP is a hilarious thing to say." You know, like, and we all just say it. Go on Music Road.
Right.
I've been in the ASCAP building.
Yeah, and it can be really intimidating, you know, when you
Yeah.
start talking to people
For
about
sure.
it. And they're, if you get approached by a DJ Dugan or somebody who's like, "What do you have this and you have this," and you're just like, "Oh crap!" Like, I don't know anything about what I'm doing.
Right.
And it makes you feel kind of dumb.
Yeah, no, for sure. But it's the only way to do it. And I wrote my lyrics out and mailed them to myself and all that stuff.
Right. Yeah.
But the version of that now is literally you post the song.
Yeah.
To YouTube, and then it has that born date, the
Yeah.
born on date.
You got the stamp.
And it took.
Yeah, because I remember you had to send it certified mail to yourself. So
Yep.
that you had a record of it, and nobody does that anymore.
No, it's.
And that's the cheap way to do it too.
Right, yeah. Right, yeah, the official way, you're supposed to file
do
the
the
forms
whole
and
paperwork
do
and
that. And
everything.
I only did that once, like back in 95
Do you not
or
send the
something.
CD to the Library of Congress anymore?
Nope.
All that stuff?
You can.
You can't. I always did that when I sent in the whole
Yeah.
packet
Yeah.
of papers you have to fill out.
Oh, yeah. You
I feel
can
like
still do
There's
that.
probably a 19-year-old that's going to do that just because it's hip now.
Because it's, is it,
They're going
it's,
to bring it back. Yeah. Like,
Cassette.
exactly. It's like putting out an
'Cause it sounds
8-track.
better.
Yeah.
Kind of. I forget who it was. Somebody locally was trying to bring back the 8-track, and it
Sounds
didn't.
very Nathan Brown.
It might well have been. Might well have been that. And it was pointed out that you can't actually buy a new 8-track player anymore, so you have to buy an old one and fix it up in order to get anything. So that's not going to.
Also, Bad Ideas coming back, that's in vogue right now. There's a lot of bad ideas.
Oh yeah.
Back in
I
America.
was cracking up that they go down to Dreamy Life and they've got all these cassettes, by local bands. It's almost like a time warp to me because I remember.
Does that sound great though?
Do they?
Sound like tape?
Well, I mean, it's
They sound like something.
They do for a while,
Yeah.
and then they start doing the thing.
Start getting.
Or if you overuse it, then
You get the wow and flutter
The tape
and
warp.
all
the
that
tape
kind of
wears
stuff.
out.
Yeah.
But I still get a little warm fuzzy when I see it on those. Look, cassette.
Oh man, it depends. My opinion is certainly is boosted by the fact that I just bought a box of tapes from Docs for $10. Docs called me and said, "We have a box of bluegrass tapes. You need to get down here." And I was like, "I'm on my way." So I get down there, and the first thing on top, everything's just dusty. There's like so much grime. And there's VHSs on top, and I'm like, "That's what you meant by tapes, right?" And no, underneath those, I got 150 new in the wrapper bluegrass tapes. I bet.
Wow.
I bet maybe 20% are online.
Dang, wow.
You know what I mean? They were released to cassette, nothing else. Maybe
Yeah,
CD.
that's the only-
Those things do not exist anywhere else.
Wow.
And
That's pretty
It was
cool.
it's a huge archival, thing, but it's also what I have in my van right now.
Oh yeah.
And so we have 30 slots in the tape carrier. So every tour,
Nice.
you keep 5 or 6 that are the go-tos, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
24, 25 new tapes, and you get to unwrap them. Just like when
You
I
smell
buy
them?
them.
You get to
Oh,
smell
they smell great.
Plastic.
Still,
Yeah.
they sound great. So.
I think that's probably responsible for some of the brain damage of people my age who've just been sniffing tapes
Yeah,
and
glue as well.
and glue. Yeah, no, can't fault the magic markers. Those were
Did
kinda
you think
fun,
about
too.
like whoever owned those had to take good care of them for them still to be?
No, these
good?
were brand new.
Brand
We
new,
put-
but out of the heat.
Yeah, right.
Oh
they
yeah,
had to keep
Docs
them-
just had them back in the back
out in
somewhere,
the
and
back.
just and some they're like $13-$14 a piece originally.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
It is awesome, and they're great. Like there's some I've learned a lot.
Do you think they came out of like one of those carousel displays at
sure,
a
you're
gas
totally
station
right.
in Memphis? It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
Here you go.
Absolutely. Wow.
Those
See,
still exist at Love's truck stops.
I can
Still
believe
there.
But
that.
not tapes.
You had tapes.
Where have you seen the tapes?
The Weatherford Loves.
Oh, the
Really? In Love by Leatherford?
Where have I been?
Yeah, there's a small little rotator. It's not as big as it used to be, but
Over
you
by
can
the
go up there and
CB
get
radios.
Get your Alabama and your George Strait.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I got 150 great.
You had everything you needed right there. So we were talking about pay and such, and so I was introduced to a concept that I can't believe hadn't really come across before. So I was talking to somebody who was saying that so when they have a band, they will, but they're like the name act on the thing, right? So it's like Simon Flory and the whatevers, like that. Sometimes when I've been in bands, I tend to just split everything, however many ways we got people. So if it's 4 people, but even if my name is on the thing, I still split it 4 ways. Well, apparently it's not that uncommon for some folks to say, well, I'm the name act, so I'm going to take a double cut and then split the rest among the other folks. But then I had heard that a couple of local folks were actually, Vandaliers was one of the things where they had actually not paid anybody for maybe a year or two to kind of just throw it into, I guess, merch and things like that. And I guess it makes a bit of sense as far as, you know, being able, but that's kind of, as a working musician, I think about that and I think, God, you know, that's a pretty big leap of faith, you know, to say,
sure.
I'm going to play, I'm going to be the drummer for, you know, this act and not get paid for a year or two. And maybe at some point we'll start getting paid. Now, in that case, they have ended up getting paid.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you have thoughts on that. Like, is that a thing that anybody
That's a
does?
band thing. It's a rock band thing. That does not exist in my world. Not even remotely. I get paid way less than my band almost all the time. So.
Well, but that's because you're probably pressing the discs.
I work
and
on a
doing-
rate system
Yeah.
because I normally won't make enough to cover the band, and then they're working musicians. And
Right.
I've also been a side guy,
Yeah.
off and on for my whole career, and so I know what I need to leave the house. Or
Right.
get to Dallas or whatever, and so you know I'll have just slightly different from a weekday to a weekend rate,
Sure.
and that's you can count on that. But usually, if I make over that, and recently I've been paid relatively the same as everybody else,
Yeah.
then I'll generally split evenly.
Yeah.
Unless
That
like
tends-
I took a huge hit last week and I need to recoup some of it. But
Sure.
First thing I always do before I hand anybody money, I tell them exactly what the deal is.
Yeah.
This is how much we weighed tonight. This is what the deal is.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Because, like, you're just living our lives, you know, 2 digits at a time. I mean, you know what I mean? Where,
Yeah.
Like, you might hit $100 sometimes.
But
like,
I can also see the wisdom in saying, you know, let's do this gig for free and put this into maybe being able to press a nice vinyl, or maybe be able to buy a better PA, or maybe being able, like, you know, to put it into the band rather than to take home. But of course, you know, that assumes you have other sources of money that are
For
coming
sure.
in.
There's that.
You know,
So
for us
our
to-
situation's weird. Like,
What
we're-
band are you?
I'm in the Spectacle.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So they've been around for 13 years. I've been in the band for 2.5 now.
Okay.
And we all have jobs.
Yeah.
And so when it comes to playing shows, we do just take the money and put it into whatever stuff we might need down the road.
Yeah.
That way, when a expense does come up, like we need shirts or whatever,
Right.
you're not going around to every band member going, "Hey, give me $40 because our order's going to be, you know, $120 for these shirts."
Yeah.
You know, it's already there. And it's
Right.
good to go. And I haven't had any problem with that with them. Now, I have been in bands where there has been a struggle or a power struggle of who gets money, when, where, and how. And well, I started this band, so I should get more. Blah,
Right.
blah, blah. And that's all just ego. But
Yeah.
this
And-
is all worked out. It's been really good, and we all take care of our own gear. So
Yeah.
That's awesome.
none of that comes out of the band fund either.
That's good.
So
Yeah, I've struggled with it because I can see both ways, but sometimes it's just like, you know, so many of us just need to pay rent, you know, that it's like it's not even a discussion. It's just like, you know, there's 4 of us, we made $400, everybody was going home with $100, you know.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
and
but
it's
I can
different
also
being older too.
Yeah, it
You
is.
Put that out there, being older and looking at things, whereas in my teens and 20s, and no, I need drinking money. I got to pay for a tab. I got to pay this show. I need to get the money so I can pay the tab so I can
Right.
even get out of this building.
Yeah.
You know, type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, it's kind of, you know, and then I remember there was the thing where, I don't know if you remember this, Amanda Palmer a few years ago had done the thing where she'd done the tour and would just have people come and play for free at the shows, and people were kind of like you have millions of dollars from your husband.
Right.
Like, you should be able to pay these poor bastards, you know, that are coming to play, you know, on your gigs. And, you know, I've done the beer and pizza gigs too, you know, like I know sometimes you just play because you just want to play it, and, you know, but I think for working musicians that's a difficult. But I can also see the like the Vandaliers approach is like, well, we're banking this into making a good record, making good merch, making good all this, so that a couple years down the road, you know, we're able to
They also have tattoos, matching tattoos.
Well, I know, and see, that's
Also
what I'm
depends
missing.
on your experience.
that's what I'm missing.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it depends on what you. Wait, should we all go get them right now?
I think we should all do that right after this.
And then we'll use the money from this podcast.
I get the impression that some of y'all would do that. So,
No, not yet. Not yet.
I'm in.
That was my first
Okay,
time.
yeah.
What is it?
Okay, well,
Yeah,
good.
your first tattoos. I imagine
Everybody's got a-
podcast
Yeah, that'd be
on a
bad.
Monday.
No, I don't know. I like hearing about these different approaches that people take, because it had not even occurred to me that you wouldn't just split it.
I mean, that's a definite long game approach. I think Fleming is pretty persuasive.
Well, yeah,
I think anyone
right,
that's met
right.
him.
absolutely.
Yeah, if you can do that, that's awesome. Like I've had a different experience with it. Just like as a solo artist, I'm used to playing shows by myself,
Sure.
and then I tried to do the band thing maybe 2 years ago, I think, to play my full-length album, full band. But then I always paid the musicians like they were my number one.
Yeah.
But they would kind of like come in and out, so I didn't have the same people all the time.
Sure.
So I had like a flat rate for everybody. And normally I wouldn't get paid unless I sold merch,
Yeah.
which not everyone really buys these days. So
And that's interesting, to think that you being the name on the thing, and you're the one that doesn't get paid.
Yeah.
But again, you want to take care of people.
yeah,
You want to be like, well, thanks for
because
playing my
they're
gig.
learning all of my songs. Like
You
I
know.
should pay them.
And then of course you logged it all with BMI or whatever. So
You get a little back. You get a little back until
Should've.
you reported the
a
video.
little extra.
And then,
The venue
I'm
shut
gonna start
down.
doing
then
that
you
and
shut
see what
down.
happens.
And another sparkling jewel in Fort Worth.
So-
It shutters its doors.
So I've made the error of bringing up this topic when I have all white people on the panel, but I still am going to ask it.
It is radio. You could have faked it.
Well, I know.
It is podcast.
I think
They're
people are
just
going to look you guys up and they're going to be like, "Oh, these people are cracker asses," But
Definitely, I mean, Simon buying bluegrass tapes.
I think they figured it out.
it probably was a clue.
Thanks a
in, yeah.
lot.
But so there was a weekly article about there was this several clubs in West 7th that are owned by the same guy, I think, and they've had dress code issues where they post things like no Timberlands, no baggy pants, no what, and it's very clearly aimed, at a certain demographic. And I noticed it when I walked in a Landmark. They had the thing up, and it's one of the clubs that was doing that. And does that seem like bullshit to y'all? Like,
Yeah, where is that acceptable
I've never
at all?
seen that.
Well, part of it is so that I think it has to do with some affiliations and the possibility of gang stuff.
well, but you could say that. I mean, like, it's
I think
like
that's what they say.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what they say.
Okay.
I don't say.
see, like, no.
I understand, like, you'll go to different sports bars or biker bars or
Mm-hmm.
dive bars, and they will say, no patches, no colors.
Yeah,
Exactly.
That's understandable.
Yeah,
You're
absolutely.
walking in with something to show that you're affiliated with a motorcycle gang.
Absolutely.
But
I've seen
the
that
day,
a bunch of times.
I tried to go on Mass a couple of weeks ago, and they wouldn't let me on because I had Jordans on, and they threw me out. And I was like, what the hell?
I mean, if you had like some Dominique Wilkins shoes, sure. But
That
Yeah.
was the problem.
They just weren't nice enough.
Did you?
I was like, dang it, I need to update.
I need my
Yeah.
Clyde Drexler's on.
anything prior to Jordan 12. It's not-
But I can understand biker colors.
Yeah, yeah.
That's,
Yeah, right. And so is that what they're going for? I mean,
Well,
is that
it's
what
not
they're
though,
talking about?
because
What are they going for
You're
then?
supposed to be, well, theoretically, it's to keep gang activity
Yeah,
out
yeah.
there.
That's
But
what
the
I'm
thing is that, of course, I know people who wear those things who are not gang members. Like, they just like wearing Timberlands.
That's a pretty big brand to ban. I mean,
Well-
those are just a pair of boots.
Well, and that's why it kind of stinks of like, well, but
Yeah.
okay, who mostly wears those boots?
Well, because it's like if a place said no jean jackets.
yeah,
right.
no Wranglers.
I mean,
Yeah.
a
That's
lot of
what
dudes like
that's
me
what I
are
want
not,
to see.
you know?
It's like
Yeah.
no improbable mustaches. Like no.
Yeah, no Chuck
And
Taylors,
bars
no
empty.
no
Yeah.
carabiners.
No Vans.
No
No,
carabiners.
yeah, not carabiners.
Well, there was a story, last year, 2 years ago, about Varsity
Yeah,
Driver.
that's
Yeah, that's one of them.
These two guys were trying to walk in. One was African American, had on, I'm going to just throw out there, Jordan,
Yeah,
and they said he couldn't come in there.
right.
So him and his buddy walked away, and he goes, you know what? Let's swap shoes,
Mm,
and let me walk up there and see. And his buddy was white, walked right up. And they let him right in.
Yeah. But that's the thing.
And
Is
that
that,
was
I
a big
mean,
write-up. So.
like you know what it is, but they won't ever say that that's what it is. And it just kind of feels dirty to me, you know. I mean, and they'll say, you know, well, we're trying to avoid trouble with it, but that also assumes that trouble has a color. I've been way more scared at places that have been full of white dudes who were looking
100%.
who were looking to start some shit.
Absolutely.
Like you can tell when you go in somewhere if there's kind of that atmosphere of like something bad could happen in here tonight, you know.
So why are you taking, like, at the door, why are you trying to take care of the problem? Why don't you take care of the problem on the floor of the club?
Yes.
Why don't you have security in there
I think
taking care of the scene?
I think
So
some of
there's-
that is that West 7th thing, though. Like they have a certain image they want to put across, you know, and it's supposed to be like middle
There's
class, you know.
Kung Fu's down there, and didn't they have a big thing in Dallas?
They did.
I mean,
Right.
it makes you wonder, like, did you guys choose that location because
Well,
everybody
good
else
question.
is
Yeah.
your mindset?
Yeah, it's just kind of goofy, and I hate. I need to have this. I need to have this discussion when I have. It's like when I was having discussions about the Torino thing, and it was all dudes on the panel. I was like, well, we don't know. You know, it's like, you know, it's. I think I probably need to have some folks in who have experienced that sort of thing. But it to me, it stinks. You know.
I
To me, it fails.
think I forgot how you phrased it, but it's like, I think we all know what that really is. They can say what they're trying to do is A, but we know it's B. I mean,
Well, it would be kind of like, you know, no Greta Thunberg shirts. You know, like if you did that, you know, like you'd be clear.
Well, have you ever been not allowed into a club? Have you ever gone through
No,
that?
I
Yes,
personally
from
have-
being
I haven't
highly
been out.
intoxicated.
That's one reason.
Okay, well, I understand that. That's
You got the dress code? What was it for?
I was one of those four-letter word douche clubs over in Dallas, like Lush or I don't know, Blush or something. I don't know, something like that.
You weren't.
But I had Chuck Taylors on.
Oh, really?
I had Chuck Taylors on, brand new,
And that was not acceptable.
and
Huh?
they would not let me in.
Are you serious?
Wow.
Dead serious.
What
I
was
valeted my
fancy?
car.
So weird.
The valet drove off with my car. Walked up to the door. The door guy said no. Valet came running back with my keys and said, "Guess what? You're gonna go back and get it."
Wow.
did you
That's
put
crazy.
on your Jordans?
No, I didn't have them at that time.
It would have fixed everything.
But yeah, for Chuck Taylors, I couldn't get into one of those clubs.
My gosh.
It's
Wait.
like is a dress code, but like for you had to be dressed up.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that happened to Phil Collins once, and he wrote a record about it.
That's right. See, he covers all kinds of life experiences in his work. Yeah, I know that when you open a place, and you probably know this. I mean, when you're open a place, you do kind of have a picture in mind of like who's going to come to your place, you know. And I've known people who've opened a club, and maybe it was just in the wrong location, you know, and they don't get who they think they're going to get. But if you're a smart business person, you go, okay, well then this is who's here. Let's cater to who's here. Like if you wanted to open a rock club, but nobody came to hear rock at that club, but they would come to see a country act, well, maybe you switch it to playing country acts. You know? I mean,
that's totally.
you know, and so the same thing, like, you know, if you think you're going to get, you know, one group of people, but then you end up getting bikers, or you end up getting, some, you know, like, you know, Fred's did that for a long time. They had the bikers in there with it. They probably not anymore, but, you know, it was just kind of everybody knew who was there, and you didn't have to worry. But sometimes you don't know. It's like you don't build you build the sidewalk thinking that's where people are going to walk, but then you get these paths that go off of the sidewalk, and venues seem to have an organic thing about them where they become what they're going to become over a long period of time. I often invoke the Grotto, but that was kind of that type of place. It was like you kind of knew that there would be musicians in there, you know, and there was no particular reason for that. It was just that tended to be the deal. And Tin Panther kind of had the same type of deal. Mass, I think, has a similar feel right now. You know, it's like,
Yeah, it's kind of a neighborhood hang in a way.
but there's a fair number of musicians in there, partially because of the record shop, but even before that,
Exactly.
you know.
And we try and do a little bit of everything just because, you know, I mean, if you're going to try and stay open and be something to the community, you
Yeah.
can't just be one thing.
Right.
You know, you gotta do a little bit of everything. And that's why I ask a lot of people a lot of different things, because if one person is booking a venue, it's going to get super stale. You know?
Yeah.
And so you open it up to a lot of people that have different ideas, and you get a more well-rounded
Right.
sort of. I mean, and I know venues are different from like West 7 clubs.
Sure,
or,
sure.
You know, but
Well, they are, but I don't know that they need to be. You know, I mean, like if you
maybe
you got
not.
Magnolia Motor Lounge, you got Fred's, you got. I mean, there's places down there that have.
I meant like.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
like
Yeah, right. That's not
dance clubs.
Bars,
Yeah.
They're not having
Doesn't
live
have a
acts.
DJ. I mean, really, this is music playing.
Yeah, and I think that's part of. Well, you know, I used to play at Sue Ellen's over in Dallas, and you know they would have. The band would be upstairs, and then they'd have the dance party downstairs, and you would kind of just see where everyone was going to gravitate. It would depend on what you were there for, you know.
If somebody has an identity crisis at the bottom of the stairs.
They go to the dance party and like, you know, I'm not feeling this. I'm going to go see a live band, or you know, or vice versa happens. You know, I guess you'd have options, you know, because I've done the thing where I don't know who's playing at a particular place, and I go, oh, let's just go into such and such, and then you find out I'm not really into what you know is going down here. Maybe I respect what they're doing, but it's not my thing. And you know, you go, and I'm not one of those that'll walk up and go, hey, can you play the thing that I wanted to come in here and hear? You know, like I know people do that.
Can you
but
adjust to my evening? My expectations of this evening.
it's like that guy that hollered Slipknot at me, you know, all night long. It's like, you know, that's not going to happen. And you really don't want it to happen either.
Sorry that happened.
Like if I got,
You were wearing the
I have damage, you know.
That would have been great. Turn around, put a mask on. Here we go.
You just yell, "Are you gonna pay for my therapy?"
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, no. Nobody pays for musicians' therapy. that's a gig by gig payment plan that you get as much
That's
as
what
possible.
PBR is for. That's what
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think as musicians too, you kind of you're conscious of where you're at, you know, and you kind of tailor your set to. I do anyway. You know, like if I'm at Shaw's, I'm probably going to play a slightly different set than if I play at, Mass or something. It's going to be a different. And I don't think that's selling out. I think that's just kind of reading the audience, honestly.
Yeah.
You know. But
I've always thought that. I have over the years run into people that were very hard. Like, I'm gonna do what I do.
Yeah.
Every time.
and I can respect that.
I can respect that, but I also think especially if you want to really make a living off of it.
Sure.
Where it's almost more about sustaining yourself now in your career than it is
Yeah.
about like pop.
Sure.
You know?
Well, if you are trying to build an image for sale to a higher entity, let's say, you know, to a label or some kind of thing, you might want to just stick to the thing that you've honed and you've made it work. And maybe you just find places that aren't going to be conducive to that, you know, and find that out in the middle of the gig and have to just grit your teeth through it anyway.
Yeah.
Or if you're versatile and you can say, well, let's see what happens if I pull this out, you know, and do something different. And that's easier to do as a solo act than it is with a band when you've rehearsed a set, obviously.
Or if you're a heavy band.
Yeah. Well,
If you're in a heavy band, you're just heavy.
there's just nothing you can do about
Nothing
it.
you can do.
You can't just like go and play a Don Williams song or something.
No,
and
you
you're like,
can't
that's
just
probably
strip it
not
down
gonna.
real quick. Okay. Let's see how this audience is going to be.
Well, I thought it was funny because I kind of did an extreme version of that many years ago when I didn't have a day job and I was trying to get as many. So I would do like a country set for a country place, and I would do like a rock set for a rock place. And then I found that I had two completely different groups of people who would come see me at those places because they didn't realize that I kind of was living two separate lives with that type of thing. And some of us who are in multiple bands have that situation too. Like I'm in Shotgun Friday, which is more of a hillbilly thing, but then I do the Matthews Show, which is more of a pop rock thing. And those things, you know, there's some...
Do you ever fun if somebody sees you like doing the
Sometime-
other one, like, or do they have,
There is a moment of confusion sometimes, yeah, because you're like, what was that, you know?
they're like, wait, I can't pigeonhole you? Oh, jeez.
Well, especially when they, you know, looking at, and I'm playing bass for Joe Savage or something, you know, and they're just kind of like, oh, is it, that's the guy that I saw at the other thing. But Fort Worth is like that, though. Like, you know, you see people all the time who are like, they play one thing in one band and one thing in another, and it's very incestuous in that way. But it's kind of, I think it's just the story of a small town. I mean, I say small. We're smaller than Dallas, but you know, Not really.
Where the West begins.
Well, yeah, and I'm reminded of that. Sometimes I think of Fort Worth as being a small place, but I've been going out to like Marfa and Alpine out there, and I realize just what a small scene is. You know, there's like 10 bands that, you know, kind of you can rotate through
Yeah.
on a regular basis who actually live out there and are able to, you know, do the thing. We, in contrast, have a huge amount of diversity that actually we didn't have even 20 years ago. I mean, I think the amount of different acts that you can see at different places these days is pretty huge.
I
now.
think it's extremely healthy. I mean, I think I got here 8 years ago, and I was even then I was surprised by how much there was.
Yeah.
I was very surprised.
Well, something changed. I moved to New York in 2002, and I was kind of dissatisfied with what was going on around here. But when I came back in 2006, it seemed like something had kind of shifted. And I don't know what happened in that interim, but since then it's kind of just done nothing but build. I changed. That's true. I did change, but that was not all of it, though.
There was a dry up period.
Yeah.
There was a pretty decent dry up period.
Yeah.
And things, it's like, it was weird. Everybody wanted to play away from Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And then there were some venues that started popping up that brought things back into Fort Worth.
Yeah.
And it just gradually grew and grew and grew.
I think they go, well, so we noticed, went down to Austin recently and walking down 6th Street, and there was hardly anybody out. And it
everybody's east.
scared the hell out of me because I remember going down there and you could barely walk, you know, and I, you know, kind of before I start lamenting it, I realized that like Deep Ellum had that happen a few years ago where it got to where no one would go down there. And then now you can hardly, you know,
It's insane.
yeah, you can't even park or anything. I mean, it's
Personal now.
you know, but even 10, 15 years ago, that was not the case. But then you go back 10 years before that, and you had it was, so maybe these things just go through cycles.
I've seen Ellum go through that cycle 3 times in my life.
Yeah, right.
Because the first time I played down there, I was 15.
Yeah.
I played Trees at 15.
Mm-hmm.
And it was bustling punk,
Mm-hmm.
industrial scene down there.
Right.
It was all cool. Then it died off.
Yeah.
And then it came back up into like a rock, more like when the whole Tripping Daisy aspect,
Right.
that era. Then it fell out. Then hip hop moved in and it dropped it off again.
Right.
And now we're back up
Yeah.
to what we are now.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a cycle.
Yeah, and
Everything goes through a cycle.
it makes you wonder about Fort Worth sometimes, like, if we're going to have periods like that, like how long does West 7th last? How long does Magnolia last? I mean, you would hope that it would hang on for a long time, but then again, maybe sometimes things dying off leads to new things, coming up. People who can actually afford the rent.
I live
Yeah.
over in near the Race Street.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's, I only moved forward 2 years ago. And when we moved into that area, I was excited because it was nostalgic for me, and it felt like where I've always lived and had lost in Austin.
Yeah.
It was incredible taquerias and every other kind of area you could think of, from tortillerias to enchiladeria to fruiteria and papuseria.
Yes.
And to have that build up around that at the same time, and have a place like the Post move in, where I
Right.
can walk to go see Grambling Jack Elliott on a Tuesday. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, yeah.
This is absolutely incredible.
But like a couple years ago, that wouldn't have been.
Well, that's when I moved there. There's nothing on that street, and
Right.
to have that move in, and I'm not crying foul on all the condos that are popping up, because that's why we also have the Post and tributary.
Right,
Cafe and
because
these things.
they're trying to.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So,
And I go back and forth because when I see a new condo development going up, part of me kind of goes, oh God,
Right.
I mean, I'm going to get priced out of the neighborhood and all
Right,
this kind of
exactly.
stuff. But then again, without that growth, maybe we don't get as many paying gigs. I don't know. I don't know if that's the thing.
There's quite a bit of give and take. I think the initial reaction is the
Right.
but I mean, I'm no developer, city
no.
planner type person, but yeah, I think you're right. There is a need, or it does provide something.
It does. Well, if nothing else, it provides people buying drinks in clubs. I mean, if that's what they're doing. I mean, some people don't contribute to the live music economy. I understand that, but I think that a fair number of them do. even if accidentally, even if they're just at a restaurant and there happens
Yeah.
to be a guy playing, it's a. I think it's kind of one of those balanced situations, because you don't want to get to the point where it's so expensive to live, because then you get Austin, where you kind of end up running a lot of the musicians out because you can't afford to live there anymore. And I don't think we're there here
Not
at this
even
point.
close.
But, yeah,
Because everybody can afford rent. Like, you can afford rent somewhere near town, and if it's not
Right.
near town, you could live a whopping 15 minutes away in a different town, and the traffic's fine.
Right.
And part of that is our infrastructure is sound, it's big, it's like you can move around in the city and into the outskirts, and that's all a great thing. But the biggest difference to me is the community and the community aspect of everybody lifting each other up. Let's show up to Fort Worth and people are like, oh, you got an idea? How can I help? What? That's
Yeah.
like a totally different feel than a place that has the issue of everybody really grabbing for, like, grasping at straws
Well,
that they can't make a dime or even feel any sort of success.
and that was my New
So-
York experience, was that everybody
Right.
was kind of grasping for the brass ring in town, and every third guy on a bar stool had a master plan to make it happen.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
it gets a little old after a while, and I think Dallas has a bit of that. There seems to be a lot more kind of cutthroat competition between acts over there than there is here. And that maybe that's I don't know, maybe that's just because there's more opportunities over there, or maybe it's just a
I think
ethos
it's always
thing.
been more of a script town,
Yeah,
It's been a little more New York and LA.
Right.
For
It's a new town too. I
You
mean,
know,
watch
I
the
mean-
opening credits to Dallas. There's like 6 buildings in the town. And Fort Worth has been around since the Indian Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's real deal. Like, this is
Right.
like an established culture. For a lot of times better, sometimes worse, but an
Right.
established culture that is. You show up and it's not really get in line, brother. But it is sort of like, oh, I see how y'all are doing this,
Right.
and I like it.
Yeah.
That's
No, I think this. I mean, having grown up here and kind of seen a lot of the different changes, I think this is the best time to be here that I've ever seen. And then there's the little voices back there that say, "But then, how long is that going to last?"
Sure. I mean, Austin was that town 30 years ago. Providence was that town, 15 years ago? I mean,
Yeah.
Nashville was that town 10 years ago.
it's like living in a sweet spot.
Yeah.
Right,
Like, 'cause
right.
That's
You kind of just have to enjoy it while you got it.
Yeah.
And
Well,
hope.
what else do you enjoy about the town? It's not just about that, too.
Yeah.
And that's my big thing around here. It's just like
Well,
the fact that I can still talk to somebody that I met 8 years ago and he moved here and then I moved here, like that,
Yeah.
every weekend in Austin is a welcome to Austin or a goodbye
Yeah.
party because everybody's coming and going. And
Right.
average, I think life cycle there is
That's
like
good
3
for the
to
bar
5
scene.
years. Yeah, right. That's good.
It's
for
like
the bar.
having an album release every night.
But still, it's just great around here having like
Well, and like you said, where you come to town and you say, I've got this idea, and people are like, oh, cool, let's talk about it, instead of, oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that.
I'm gonna take your
Yeah,
idea.
that's too good.
Yeah. How much success was that idea? Did you have with that idea in your last town? Because that's a really big thing in those
Yeah.
other cities. Where if you're big in Minneapolis, like you should move to Austin. Like if you've already conquered the little smaller market, you can go there.
Well, we still have
Just
the kind
crazy.
of have the pilgrimage trail from here to Nashville that happens
sure.
every
Yep.
so often. People will go and try their hand at it, and some of them get the Maren Morris thing, and some of them are like Ainsley's still kind of fighting it out there.
But that's a
There's
local
people,
scene now. That's different than even when 5 years ago when Maren Morris was going there.
Right.
Because it's just a different scene because East Nashville wasn't a scene until, well, you know that because you lived there last, right?
Yeah, like it felt like a large town.
Yeah. And I lived
To
there.
me.
I couch surfed, I should say, when you were there 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Or whatever, 8 or 10 years ago. I was also couch surfing then. And I had my choice. Do I move to Nashville or do I move to Austin? And I was like, it's like nothing is going on here except for the jerks and like the ass caps. But no, but it's like, it was like these people with the shiny teeth and
Right.
nothing else.
Yeah,
And, I got decent teeth.
I'd like to bring up,
Yeah.
going back to the West 7th and Magnolia.
Yeah.
I think we have people that are looking over those areas that are taking good care of it.
Sure.
Since I've lived here, Magnolia was, when I was young, scary.
Oh yeah, you didn't want to be
Scary
down there
as
after dark.
hell. But now it's been a gradual ramp up.
Yeah, and
It's
I've been
never
proud of them
fallen
actually
off.
for doing what they've done down there.
You know, it's beautiful down there. It's
I ran
comfortable.
I ran an open mic down there in '96, and there was me and the Tumbleweeds and Vagrants. You know, I mean, like it was
Where
at the Dog Star when they
At the
moved
Dog
it
Star,
from.
yeah.
They briefly moved it from Prairie over there.
My
But-
high school years were spent at what King Tut took over.
Oh yeah,
I can't even think of it.
the freaking engine room and all that.
Mad Hatters.
Mad Hatters, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, like, you could count the number of clubs at that time on maybe a hand. You know, there were not that many.
And then if you were really brave, you'd come down here to Engine Room or the Impala on
Yeah.
right here on Vickery.
I still talk to people who blame. There was one particular show, and I can't remember who it was, but I know at least 15 people who have tinnitus, probably from that
Yeah,
show,
from that.
because people were just, you know, it was just ridiculous sometimes in that place. But you know, I think we all kind of have entered. We've all entered at different points, you know, like some of us are from here, some of us are not, but I think the fact that we're all kind of conglomerating right now speaks something to Fort Worth having something at the moment. I hope that continues. I would like for it to.
Yes, me too.
If the folks who are listening wanted to find out more about your adventures, Dustin, where would they go on the interwebs to do that?
Photography-wise, it's plastic object photography. For the podcast, it is jerryjonestownmassacre.com. And we'll put a little shout out this week. Me and Matt are going out of town. So, filling in our spot, we're having the pilot episode of Fort Worth Famous
Yes,
that features Susie Ramone and Ivy Anderson.
very nice.
So, if you go by there this week, jerryjonestownmassacre.com or on any of your podcast listening apps, just look us up. And this week is their pilot episode. Check it out.
Very awesome.
Cool.
If we wanted to find out more about your activities, where do we go?
massfw.com is the website for Main and Southside, and then spoontickets.com. That is SPUNE
Yes.
tickets. That's where all those shows are.
Very nice. What about Miss Simone Nicole? Where do we go?
Just SimoneNicole.com has all of my links to music and videos and social media stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And Simon Flory.
Same for me.
Same thing.
SimonFloor.com.
Very nice. Well, one thing we like to do here on the Barbershop is have a local artist cover a local artist. Simon Flory has agreed to do cover of a local
I'm the only one
artist.
doing it.
Yeah.
Are you doing it?
I did one last time.
She did one last time, so
which was
you're
like forever
up.
ago.
I have to do
Now you got to do it.
it. Now?
He did in a
Okay.
minute. So yeah. So what were you going to do?
I'm going to do a Summer Dean song.
Oh, good.
cool.
Okay.
Yeah,
Very
she's a
nice.
good friend of mine, and kind of my link, one of my links from Austin to here. We became friends down in Austin.
Very cool.
And eventually ended up playing in her band for a couple of years, touring together, traveling together, and writing for her. So she does some of my tunes as well.
That's
So
awesome.
Does she log them on there?
we need to talk about that after this.
Checklist.
All right. Make sure to support our sponsor, Lee's Book and Tea Shop, where we've been recording this. They have fine teas. They have fine books. They have a very comfortable atmosphere. Make sure to find us on the face space. Barbershop Fort Worth. This here's Simon Flory. We'll see you next time.
Sitting there on your bar stool, the queen on the throne. It's hard to look pretty. You're all alone. No one there to love her. No one sees her crown. She's lonely on this bar. She's the queen of clowns. Queen of the clowns. If they only knew. She's the queen of the clowns.
lovesick fool. Love, her tiny tiara, oh, she tries to mask her frowns. She's there on her bar stool. She's the queen of clowns. Faces of old lovers swirling around in the wine. Her tears, her lashes, her mascara's fine. The jukebox plays Farron, and she starts to think, if fair and young were here right now, he'd buy me a drink. The queen of clowns. Well, if they only knew, oh, she's the queen of clowns. Lovesick fool. Oh, tiny tiara, oh, she tries to mask her frowns. She's lonely on this bar stool. She's the queen of clowns. Lonely on this bar stool. She's the queen of clowns.
The Barbershop is sponsored by Lee's Book and Tea Shop. Visit them at 120 St. Louis Avenue in Fort Worth.